What's going on, guys? Matt here, back again with another video. Let's go through the top 10 picks of the 2017 NBA draft and go through another draft investing tier list. Again, just to reiterate, it's the top 10 picks only, so we're going to be missing out on players like Donovan Mitchell, John Collins, and OG Anunoby as well. So yeah, I've just had a few people message me saying, you've missed this player, you've missed this player. And yeah, like I said, it's going to be top 10 picks only, and then as I'll get through further on, I'll get into the later picks, or more so the most popular picks, because it'll be hard to do every single pick in each draft. But yeah, let's go through the top 10 picks from the 2017 NBA draft, which is quite a deep class. And yeah, we'll start off with pick 1, and that's Markelle Fultz, who's currently at Orlando Magic. So I have Markelle Fultz in the third category. Look, he's been given a lot of chances. I always think this is his last year. I know he's coming off that ACL injury, which is quite tough on a player, but being the number one pick and having all those issues, I mean, how many more years are we going to really give him? I want to see how he's going to bounce back this year. I know last season, he was actually playing quite well, but it's to have that consistency and hopefully carve out a great spot in that Orlando team, which is actually a great up-and-coming sort of young team. I feel like they need a veteran presence to really even them out, but Markelle Fultz has been given a lot of chances, been given a lot of time off to work on his shot and all this sort of stuff. So it's really to see what he can do in the coming few years. Next up, Lonzo Ball, now at the Chicago Bulls, a new guard there. I'm happy to have him in the second category, or the invest now short-term category. Look, a lot of people rag on Lonzo Ball. I think they just hate the whole Ball family, really. But Lonzo Ball's a great player. He's a great passer. His three-point shots improved a fair bit. I don't think people have realised that. He's almost at that 40% consistent clip from the three-point line, which is really good. I'm not expecting him to be that 20-point per game scorer, but if he's hanging around that 15 points, 6 rebounds, maybe 7 assists sort of stat line, that's a really good sort of stat line for that sort of player like Lonzo Ball. I wouldn't probably invest in him long term. I just don't see the potential in there. And as I always say, the long term category is someone that you in maybe 10 to 15 years time you can see as being at that sort of high price still. So with Lonzo, I think his comparison's always been Jason Kidd. I mean, are we really investing in Jason Kidd at the moment? Jason Kidd's a great player, but yeah, with Lonzo, I just don't think he's going to be that sort of player I look at long term in the future. But I do like him. So yeah, next player, Jason Tatum. I mean, people would definitely have him in the first or second one. For me personally, I would probably go in the long-term category. I mean, like I said, there's not many players in each draft class that can go in this category, but I feel like Jason Tatum is probably the one I'd pick out of this draft class, and I'll tell you if anyone else will fit in. But Jason Tatum's a great player, great two-way player. He's improving his shot creating abilities. I actually saw a stat the other day where he put up like one of the most, like, in terms of difficulty, he puts up the hardest shots, and he makes a fair clip of them, which is really good. So for Jason Tatum, I really like him, and he's got that great young team at Boston with Jaylen Brown, Time Lord, they got that really passionate fan base behind him. So I feel like Jason Tatum's prices are always going to be a little bit more elevated because he's got that fan base behind him. But yeah, with Jason Tatum, I think between him, Luka, Zion, I can't really think of anyone on top of my head, but yeah, those three players are the ones that for the future you should be really banking on. I think Giannis is sort of like there right now, but these sort of three are probably the ones that you expect to kind of come up into that next stage in the future. So I really love Jason Tatum. I have a fair few cards of him and have been holding on to them, so I do believe in him a little bit more long term. So as we get on to the later parts of the draft, we do have a fair few players, and I think this is why I probably wouldn't go into like the 2015 or 2014 draft, because we almost know what we expect with these sort of players. So I think the fourth player is quite obvious, Josh Jackson. Have him in the sell category. Look, first season in Phoenix was actually quite promising. I think he just had inflated stats though, just because Phoenix at the time didn't really have anyone playing there. I think obviously they didn't have DeAndre Ayton. They had TJ Warren, who was playing there. He was averaging about 20 points a game. Josh Jackson was there. Young Devin Booker was there. I can't think of anyone else, but Josh Jackson's pretty much bounced around. He's also been charged with a lot of off-court stuff. He's at Detroit now. Look, he's playing a role, but I think, if you want to pick up a few cheap cards, like, go for it. He's that cheap, but I just don't think if there's any long-term potential there. It's really on your own risk profile. But for me with Josh Jackson, I just think I've seen enough of him, and I was hoping he would hopefully play well. I mean, he's an all right scorer. Came from Kansas, and I just think I don't know. I just probably wouldn't invest in him long term, probably wouldn't invest in him at all really. So for me, it's a sell. I think you got to have some players in the sell category, De'Aaron Fox, great player here. Look, and I think people will have him in the first category. I'm going to be quite safe here. I'm putting him in the second category. I think we all know him very well thanks to Carrie V, who's really pumped him up. And look, I can see why. He's a 25 point per game scorer. It's just the market of the team at Sacramento. That front office is terrible. They've made some poor decisions, drafting Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. And they've got Halliburton now, so they've actually made up for it a little bit more now, but I think they've just been for a long time have been known as just not having the greatest front office. But De'Aaron Fox is a great player, 25 point per game scorer. He's improved his shot really well over the last few years. Not super consistent or anything like that, but great driver, great passer, great facilitator and all that. But I really like De'Aaron Fox, and I think he's also got that something that gets undervalued a lot with players is that the off the court swagger, and I think with De'Aaron Fox he has that really well. He's big into his gaming, I know that, and so I think that don't ever underestimate the amount of influence that can have on a player's popularity, like the off-court stuff. Like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's a great one. His Instagram's just everyone's loving his fashion. Jalen Green's another one who's the second pick in this year's draft. He's already had 1 million followers before he even got drafted. So I think that's a big thing for a player's hype. When people off the court, like they already are looking at him, and I think that plays a massive part in their prices. Sixth player up, Jonathan Isaac. I have him in the short-term category. I think this might surprise many of you. Look, I think with Isaac, sorry if I'm butchering it there, but he's coming off that ACL or a meniscus injury. I think that the only thing I'm weary of is his injury history, but he could potentially win a Defensive Player of the Year, and I think he's been slept on a fair bit, but he could win a Defensive Player of the Year easily. He's, I think he was averaging at least 2 steals and 2 blocks. I think he's the only player in the NBA who was doing that not last season, the one before that, because he got injured. But in the bubble, he was playing quite well, and then in January of that season as well, he was playing quite well. He's got a great 3-point shot. He's a really lengthy player. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Orlando GM actually used to be my Milwaukee's GM. So he actually prioritizes tall, lengthy players. So he has Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, and then back with Milwaukee, he had Giannis, he had John Henson as well, Thon Maker as well. So he loves those tall and lengthy players because they're quite versatile. So Jonathan Isaac, I think he can be comfortably a late teens sort of scorer with a great 3-point shot. And then if he averages 2 steals a game, 2 blocks a game, I know people don't prioritize defense in sports cards, but I think he's sort of that player that you can see having a boost in his card prices because he does play that role offensively quite well. So I really do like Jonathan Isaac. It's just the injury history. Every time I'm keen to get on him, massive injury happens. And I know you're meant to buy the fear, but injuries are a massive thing, and coming off an ACL and meniscus injury, it's just it's a little bit scary. But I've got some stashed away. I'm not going to go super hard into him, but I do have some stashed away, and I do like him. And he's going to fit in well with that team in Orlando. They've got Jalen Suggs, they got Fultz, RJ Hampton, Cole Anthony. They're very stacked. Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba. They're quite stacked. I think they just, like I said, they need a veteran presence to sort of balance that team out, because you can't just have a lot of young players and expect to win. You need to sort of balance that out, and that's what Atlanta did this season. They added Gallinari, they had Rondo there as well. So you got to have those sort of that balance to your team and not just expect young players to sort of flourish. Next player up, and who recently got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers, Lauri Markkanen. Look, I'll have Lauri in the third category, in the hold may have potential category. I don't know if many of you guys were kind of in the game, even just watching sports cards in general in 2017. But people in the first month of the season were going hard for Lauri's cards, and another player in this list cards who I will mention later. But we're going hard for Lauri's cards, and he had a great rookie season. But I think he sort of had those second year blues, and I think his stats dropped off. But people love that sort of European 7-footer that can shoot well. So with Lowry, he actually was playing quite well, and then he kind of dropped. But I think that whole Chicago team in that second season, or even in general in the last sort of few years when they had Jim Boylen as their coach, their progress sort of stagnated. So I think with the trade to Cleveland, they've got a really tall team. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Larry Marketing, you got Garland, Sexton, Okoro. So look, I don't know if he'll be starting. Maybe he'll be a sixth man, but I do like him. Hopefully he can regain that sort of touch, because I think his percentage has dropped off as well. So if he can regain that touch, I can see him potentially being, that late teen scorer. I think that can be his sort of cap. But it's just, I'm willing to hold it a little bit longer for him. Eighth player, Frank Ntilikina. Look, I'm having him in the sell. I don't know what it is with the New York Knicks. They love reaching for players, for guards or forwards that can defend really well but can't shoot. And Frank Ntilikina, who didn't even sign on after I think his rookie contract's over, so now they had a chance to re-sign him, and they haven't even re-signed him. They've just left him. So with Frank Ntilikina, I was looking through his percentages before, and you're averaging 38% from the field as a guard. I mean, it's not acceptable in your fourth year as well. So hasn't really improved at all. Defense is great, but I think with the Knicks, they can't be waiting any longer, and they've got already a few more guards. They've got Kemba there now as well. So I think with the Knicks, they're just done with him. And I think personally for me as well, in the sports card sense, I'm done with him as well, unfortunately. But hopefully he can get back on another team and can play and can develop as a role player, because teams love that guard that can play great defense and can also shoot threes quite well. I think that's the prototype player right now in the NBA, a player that can defend well and can shoot threes. So ninth player up, Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know if he's on a team right now, but I would have him in the sell category. And this is the other player I was talking about that everyone was after in the 2017 NBA draft. So it was Larry Markkinen, Dennis Smith Jr., Donovan Mitchell. So those three players were the main hit players that everyone wanted sort of in that first month. Dennis Smith Jr. had that ridiculous Summer League performance to debut. He was being compared to Russell Westbrook with their athletic ability, but has just not translated. Didn't get along with Luka Doncic, wasn't happy with him, didn't mesh. They tried putting them together, and then they ended up trading him for Porzingis. Percentages have just been shocking. Hasn't really developed that three-point shot. With Dennis Smith Jr., I know he's had I've actually been tracking him a fair bit over the last year, because I'm hoping that maybe there's a bit of a renaissance and maybe he can kind of come back. But because he had that potential, you show that much potential, you can't just expect it to go away. But I know he's going through some personal stuff, and hopefully once he gets over that, he can hopefully find a team that can use him. I know Detroit had him. I don't know if they still have him now. He might be there. I haven't actually looked it up, but. For me, I'll have him as a sell. I think when you kind of get into these later years, like the earlier years, like 2017, 2016, 2015, your mind's made up on a lot of these players already. So a little bit unfortunate for Dennis Smith Jr. I hope he gets back on the team, like I said. But that's just my opinion of him. And last player up, Zach Collins. Oh, look, I'm just going to have Zach Collins in the sell category as well. So this is a pretty like an L-shaped sort of tier here. But with Zach Collins, he didn't play last season. He played 11 games in the season before that. So you're going through 2 seasons where he's played 11 games. He's a big guy coming off a stress fracture in his foot, I think, as well. I think big guys, when you hear big guy and stress fracture both terms together, it scares you a little bit, because it can be career threatening. You've got guys like Yao Ming who went through it, who had to retire because of it. Arvydas Sabonis, I think, is another one. 7'3" guy in the 90s who was being cast as like the MJ in Europe, or the GOAT in Europe, but stress fractures in big guys, they don't mesh too well. I know he's at the Spurs now, so hopefully he gets that rehab right. I think it's just when you hear big guys and stress fractures, I think you'd rather just put your money elsewhere. Maybe if you want to have a flyer on him, go ahead and purchase a few cheap cards, but I wouldn't be putting in too much of an investment into him. Those are the top 10 picks. Like I said, just the top 10 picks for today. I'll go through the later picks. It's going to be quite hard to kind of rank and prioritize which picks. So I might even keep it up to you guys to pick which picks you want me to kind of analyze in the tiers. But yeah, I'll go through previous drafts. I might get up to 2016 or 2015. Otherwise, I'll just go through the best of the rest in terms of each draft class and rank them in this tier list. But I do appreciate it if you've made it to the end. Make sure you're hitting the like button and hitting subscribe as always, and I'll see you all in future videos. Take care.